Yo.
Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leader in rushing, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Joined alongside Tim in Green Bay, here to talk some Packers tonight. More specifically, Tim, what we're going to dive into, we're going to cover the top cornerback free agents as the market sits right now. We're going to compare previous average annual value to market value and kind of go in with the expectation of, all right, here's what they just got paid on their previous contract, and here is what the market is suggesting they're worth, i.e. the more valuable, the more more talented, I guess you could say, at least recency bias in that terms, cornerbacks that are going to be hitting the market. So we'll hit that first, and then we're going to end with, we've already got a list compiled with the cheese emoji on our draft board showing the prospects that Easton Butler, shout out to him, has done a hell of a job. Go give him a follow on Twitter. Every year creates a spreadsheet of all of these players that the Packers have already met with throughout the draft process. So we'll talk about those players and see how many of them are toward the top of the board. Where do they fall? Are they targeting anybody in the top 32? Is it kind of outside of the top 50 because we're picking 52? We'll talk about that and have a little conversation there. So before we do, though, if you guys would do that YouTube stuff for me, hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your day. We're not experts. We are not insiders. We're not media members. We are fans just like you, talking Packers on a daily basis. So if you're looking for that type of content, be sure and hit like, be sure and hit subscribe, click the bell icon, and also check out our Patreon community, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. Tim, how was your day, sir?
Beautiful Sunday in Green Bay. Wait, is it Sunday yet? Yeah, it's Sunday.
It's Sunday.
We're enjoying the cool weather. You know, it's getting a little warmer up here. We're not dealing with the snow like you guys are. Big shout out to Titletown. They had the winter games up at Titletown. Got free tubing on Arians Hill right now. So we made it. We made it through the weekend, man.
I love it, man. We usually go over there when we're in town, and we always make it a point to go to a game that's at least in December, so we get tube. And we go down the hill 2 or 3 times, and then we get us a cup of coffee, and we just sit over and watch people bust their ass on the ice skating rink. That's my favorite thing to do. Mandy will just sit there and giggle the whole time watching people fall. And you're saying, Clayton, can you skate? Absolutely not. That's why I sit on that bench and laugh at other people trying to skate, man.
I used to be able to skate in my former life, you know, back in my teens and 20s maybe, but I don't know about it anymore.
Not this guy, dude. It's pathetic watching this guy get on a pair of skates. I'm just telling you, man. So, all right, man, let's do it. Let's jump into it. And again, if you guys get super chats, comments, stuff like that, we'll try to hit them at the end of the segment. But we'll definitely hit the supers for you all at the end of the segment. So just get those in if you got anything you want to ask or say. Top targets. Here we go. You can find this article over at Patreon. Not really an article, just a couple screen grabs showing these top free agents that are on the market at the cornerback position. And, it was titled How These 5 Free Agents Can Help Fix the Packers Secondary. We're going to go well beyond the list of 5, but we're going to show you the top 5 and work on down the line. So it may be a little hard for you guys to see. I will read it out loud. Again, you guys can see it over in our Patreon group, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. At the top of the list here, Tim, we're going to sort it, first of all, by previous average annual value. What that means, guys, forget the guaranteed money. It simply means you take the overall number of the contract previously and the number of years, divide that by the years, obviously, and that gives you what they averaged per year. Now, of course, it doesn't mean they got that much money while they were there. The signing bonus plays a big role into that and whatnot. But at the top of the list, Tim, is our very own Trayvon Diggs that we just signed for 1 game and cut loose because we didn't want to hold on to that $15 million cap hit. Now, people were going, why did we let him go? Why did we let him go? Look at the number on the right, gang. The previous average annual value for Trayvon Diggs, $19.4 million. Okay, we were only on the hook for $500K. Okay, and if we kept him next year, the cap hit was going to be $15 million. Well, the market value is currently at $7.5 million. I'm not saying Trayvon Diggs is the best cornerback. We're going to talk about that when we sort by market value in just a second. Okay, but as it sits right now, he had the most money on his last contract, 19.4 average annual value. Number 2, Jamil Dean, cornerback out of Tampa Bay, 13 million was his previous average annual value. His market value is at 12.4. Jimmy Ward at free safety. He must have played some slot hybrid as well, but Jimmy Ward listed here, almost 35 years old, been in the league for 11 years, I believe, played for the Houston Texans. 10.5 million was previous average annual value. Notice his market value, Tim. They're not touching it. They don't know what the number will be, right? So you're going to get some of those here as well. Jonathan Jones, cornerback out of Washington, 32 years old, 5.5 million. So you see it dramatically drop off. It's either Amick or Amik Robertson from Detroit, 4.6 million was his previous. Eric Stokes, $3.5 million, Tim. That was his previous average annual value. I imagine that 1-year deal that he signed with the Raiders, he got the escalator bonus there, I would imagine. So he probably went from like a minimum or whatever up to the 3.5. Maybe they signed him for 3.5. I don't know. Sure. But again, Eric Stokes there on the list. I notice his market value, though, 7.3. And again, we'll sort it by that in a second. But Eric Stokes made himself some money this year, Tim. That's exciting for him, right?
I was going to say he played some pretty good ball too. If you go back and look at his 2025 season, played pretty good. We talked about Stokes with that long journey for the injury recovery, and him ended out in Vegas. You kind of didn't know what it was going to look like going into the year. But I think if you look back at 2025, he had a pretty good season on a pretty bad football team. So I would assume that's why his market value's kind of gone up a little bit. And then the age factor too, he's not that old yet. He'll be 27 this year. So there's still some gas left in the tank. So yeah, shout out Eric Stokes. I don't think he'll be back in Green Bay anytime soon, but big shout out to Eric Stokes Jr.
That's one of those tough things that I think that the Packers would be open to signing him back at the right price since he had a great year. But Eric Stokes is probably done with Green Bay, right? The fact that they kind of moved on. And listen, whether you want to say it's hard feelings or just the business side of things or whatnot, I think the majority of people would rather live in Vegas than Green Bay. Not me. I would much rather live in Green Bay, Wisconsin, title town, than Las Vegas. But these young players, 26 years old, multimillionaire, they're loving being out there at the Vegas Strip.
Look at that average annual value projection too, though. So if you look at Stokes and compare him to Trayvon Diggs,
same number.
I think I'd rather re-sign Trayvon, honestly, at this point.
That's a great point. Next on the list, I don't know how to say the name. Maybe y'all can help me. Is it Kader Kohou? Is that right? Kohou? So, Cater.
I think you nailed the first name, though. That's got to be Cater, right?
All right, we'll just call him Cater. Cater, cornerback out of Miami, 3.2 million, 27 years old. Greg Newsome's one that's been mentioned with the Packers several times because they remember he was a high draft pick. He was very, very highly touted in the draft. He has not played great, guys. And this is a perfect example here that previous average annual value is only 3.1. However, when you compare the market value, it seems as if he had a decent year this year. So just like Eric Stokes made himself some money. I wouldn't be surprised too, Tim, you get players like that. They have a great year in a contract year, then all of a sudden they taper back once you give them a deal. So you might be on the hook for some money and somebody underperforming in that regard. But then you got Tre'Davious White. I didn't know he was still in the league, to be honest with you. He used to be one of the better cornerbacks in the league. $3 million was his previous, 1.2 now. And that's pretty much all we've got there in terms. Now you're getting into the guys with no market value as it's showing right now, and they were previously making $2.5 million. So again, when you look at this list in terms of where they were, let's say 3 years ago, Trayvon Diggs, Jamil Dean, Jimmy Ward, Jonathan Jones, and Amik Robertson are probably the most valuable of those players, right? So if you had to choose, and we're going to sort by market value next, but if you had to choose between those top five there, Tim, Trayvon Diggs, Jamil Dean, Jimmy Ward, Jonathan Jones, or Amik Robertson, which one would you like to have in free agency?
That's tough. That's tough. I'm going to be honest. It's Trayvon Diggs, or I might even roll the dice on Amik Robertson, honestly.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's hands down Trayvon Diggs. It is. Yeah. You've seen a guy who's a former All-Pro, right? You've seen a guy who led the league in interceptions. Now, I know I'm not sitting here trying to pretend like he's the perfect corner. I'm not trying to pretend like he's great. I think he's good. 7.5, you're not overpaying, right? 7.5 is paying market value for an above average to good corner, right? That's the way I see that. So
Yep.
that would be my pick as well, Tim. Let's go on to market value now. Actually, let me hit this chat real quick, and then we'll go on to market value. Let's see what the chat's saying. You got to be kidding me. Says $7.5 million for Diggs. I'm game for that. Again, if it was 10 million, we'd be like, yeah, right.
Right.
And now again, the fans that were mad that they cut him loose at 15 million, we definitely wouldn't want him at 15 million, right? And that's what we were
part of the game, right?
Yeah.
Part of the business. I'd be willing to bet we brought him in knowing we were going to do that and try and restructure and get him back in the fold, right?
Right. And what you did, Tim, is you got him in-house with your coaches and see how he gelled with your players. And you really got an opportunity for like 2 or 3 weeks, however long it was, to kind of scout him out, get your hands on his knee, right? Get your doctors in there to take a look at him and make sure, okay, yeah, he's good, he's healthy, everything's good to go. It checks out with our training staff. Sometimes you don't get an opportunity to do that with these free agents,
Yep, so
every now and again, if they make it to the point where they're having to travel to places, now their market's flat. And in that case, if they're willing to, man, I really want to sign with this team, let me go meet with them first, that's when their doctors might be able to do an eval. So that's another plus, I think, with getting Trayvon Diggs in there. So
I would agree. Shout out to our front office for getting ahead of the ball, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And you gave up nothing for him. You paid him $500K, right? I think it was actually a little less than $500K. So no draft picks. Chris N says, I really like Diggs for our defense. We need turnovers, and our elite safeties can have his back. And on top of that, Chris, he had his best year or two there with Micah Parsons rushing the quarterback, right? And again, a great edge rusher will get a cornerback paid. A great cornerback sometimes gets defensive linemen paid because they're getting more sacks because you're getting coverage sacks, right?
Pressure pick, coverage sack, baby.
Amen. All right, let's go to market value. So you notice shuffling it by market value, things really change up here, Tim. So again, I'm not going to dive into what everybody's market value, how it tallies up, but just understand Spot Track, which is the site we use here, their market value is typically attached with a multitude of things like 5 or 6 statistical categories compared across other people at their similar age. And that's how they come up with the market value. So keep in mind, these guys at the top, that means they had a good year. They probably had a lot of pass breakups, interceptions, passer rating when targeted, things like that. So it kind of removes a lot of the noise from it. You guys can go check it out yourself. Go to spottrack.com. It's an amazing site. I've got a subscription there. Love it. It's money well spent, I'm telling you. So at the top of the list, we got Nashawn Wright, cornerback out of Chicago. So Chicago losing one of their better cornerbacks this year. Again, a team that led the league in interceptions, the Chicago Bears. How cool would it be to go maybe poach one of their guys? The question is, are you willing to pay $16.6 million for a 27-year-old that I didn't know much about until this year? So that's something you got to take into consideration. He's at the top of the market. That would suggest he had the best year of all of these corners. Then you've got Jalen Watson, cornerback out of Kansas City at 12.4. Jamil Dean, cornerback out of Tampa Bay, 12.4. Alontae Taylor, cornerback out of New Orleans. He was there were some rumors around the Packers potentially trading for him. Okay.
Here's a guy.
So that's a guy that maybe the Packers are interested in free agency. The question is, would you be willing to pay him 11.1? If you're getting a starting caliber cornerback, meaning a top 32 corner, absolutely, I'd be willing to pay that. Josh Jobe or Joby, however you say it, from Seattle. They had a great defense this year, $9.7 million. Cordell Flott out of the New York Giants, $9.5 million. Monteric Brown, $9.2 million. He played for the Jaguars on that great defense there last year. Cam Taylor-Britt from the Bengals, $9.1 million. Greg Newsome, $9 million. He played for Jacksonville as well, as we just talked about. Tariq Woolen out of Seattle, 8.1. And then our very own Trayvon Diggs at 7.5, followed by Eric Stokes at 7.3. So when you take this into consideration, Tim, you're saying that if all these guys hit the market, and all of them won't, they're just projected to be unrestricted free agents as of February 1st. Deals haven't been struck yet. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The 11th best free agent corner. And he may end up being the best if the rest of these guys get signed. But right there, borderline top 10 corner in free agency at $7.3 million. I think that makes a lot of sense for Trayvon Diggs. I just wouldn't expect Trayvon Diggs to fix our cornerback problem all by himself. So if it does check out, Tim, that Nashawn Wright at 27 years old is a stud, and we haven't dove into it too deep, you guys go check out the PFF grades. I want everybody who's hearing my voice that's watching this back later as well, you go do your own research, come back to the comments and let us know which of these guys you like. I would rather, if Goody feels like this is the best corner in free agency, I would be okay with spending 12 or 15 million on a corner to feel like you buttoned that up and got it right. Although, Tim, we're a little nervous about the Nate Hobbs signing. We don't want another Nate Hobbs. I hope Nate Hobbs is back. I hope he plays great. But I think we all agree he didn't play to the level we expected, right?
And he didn't play a lot, and we heard Nate talk about that, when we did locker room clean out. He felt bad. He never got a chance to really show what he can do. If he played 17 games for us, we might have a different opinion on him. So I'm with you, Clay. I hope Nate Hobbs is back, and I hope we get a full year out of him. Put it that way, because I think he's a dog. I really do. But when I look at the rest of this list, yeah, you're right. Nashawn Wright out of Chicago, if you got an opportunity to maybe get him, maybe a little bit below on a sweetheart deal, if you believe he's your guy and you can steal someone from a division rival here, if you think he's going to be a field tilter, cool. But I don't think any of us really believe that a free agent corner signing is going to fix the cornerback room. I think we have to hit free agency, and we have to take a swing or two in the draft and, see what we can do to build out that room, along with the guys that we already have in there. CV comes to mind, Nate Hobbs comes to mind. But other than that, Alontae Taylor, Cam Taylor-Britt, those are names that pop out to me. I feel like there might be some value there. But at the end of the day, I don't think anyone's like alarmingly jumping off this list other than Trayvon Diggs. And he's basically got one foot in the door here in Green Bay already. So, we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. And again, he wants to play with Micah, right?
Yep.
He's already got his kind of taste of Green Bay. Now, if another team comes and offers $5 million more than we're willing to offer, he's probably gone, right? He's going to obviously take the better deal, but yeah, it's a great point.
And you can look at Stokes too. We talked about Eric Stokes Jr., like, oh, do you think he would come back? Well, if the market doesn't look sweet for him and we can get him on a sweetheart deal, I wouldn't rule it out,
Right. Absolutely. Coach Lynn says, I like Wright, talking about Nashawn Wright from Chicago. He said, coached against him when he was at Laney JC in Oakland. So Laney Junior College in Oakland. So Coach Lynn actually had a little bit of experience coaching against him.
Nice.
So,
shout out to the Bay Area. Like it.
Coach Lynn giving us a little stamp of approval there. Hey, not a bad player. So we may dig a little deeper into that. United Bates says definitely in for Diggs at that price. I agree. That price is great, man. I think that's a great deal. And you could even guarantee a little bit more than other teams would and probably get that cap number down to about 5 or 6 million in the first couple of years. Really, I mean, you're paying backup money for a guy who's going to be a starting corner. I think that's a great way to approach that. Kyle Landretti asked in the chat, what do you think of Alontae Taylor? Just a quick little jump at a look at Alontae Taylor, Tim. In 2025, he was a 63.8. Again, PFF isn't everything, but we've already got Alontae Taylor at home, is what I would say, right? Like we got players that play around that level.
Sure.
And when you look at it, his passer rating when targeted, 108.7. So forget the PFF grade for a minute, 108.7. Not a great passer rating when targeted, right? He also played 566 snaps in the slot this year. So can he play outside? Probably. The year before he played 605 snaps outside, but not an ideal scenario. And when you break it down, Tim, he's been in the league for 4 years. His PFF grades, 54, 45, 45, 63. For me, it would definitely be to take our boy Trayvon Diggs over Alontae Taylor.
I would agree with that. I still think Taylor's on the radar, but at 10 plus milli average annual, no, not at all. Not interested in that. There are 2 or 3 or 4 other names on this list I would rather be in that ballpark with. Yep.
And you're asking yourself, well, why were there trade rumors with Green Bay and the New Orleans Saints to potentially pick up Alontae Taylor for the Packers? He was a second-round pick 49. What it tells me is Goody probably had a second to third-round pick talent on him, grade on him. So that's typically how that works, right? So,
and like Chris the Casual was saying too, he did ball out against the Packers a couple years back. I remember that game. Hell of a performance, so worth noting.
Yep, definitely. And then we got Dylan Davis here in the chat says, I'd be fine with Diggs and get Stokes back under a new coordinator if the scheme works. Restructure Hobbs or kick him to the curb. So I don't hate that idea. I don't hate that game plan. I think it's a solid game plan there, Dylan. Like we said, though, will Stokes be willing to come back? As we say down here in the South, I don't chew my backer twice. You know what I'm saying? He may be like, I'm done. I don't want to go back to Green Bay.
Yeah, once I spit it out, I don't pick it up off the ground, put it back in.
Unless somebody says you want an extra $2 million guaranteed than the other team that's offering, then you go, where's that Levi Garrett at? Where's it at? So Levi Garrett sponsor the show. Okay. So, all right, there you go, guys. There is that's the face you make too when you accidentally swallow that juice and get sick. All right, so if you guys are watching this back later, let us know how you feel about those cornerback free agents. Is there one or two that really grabbed your attention we didn't talk about? Is there maybe someone that's lower on this list that we didn't get a chance to cover? Let us know in the comments how you feel about those guys. Make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe, click the bell icon so you don't miss out on future content that's created here on the channel. We greatly appreciate y'all hanging out with us this evening. All right, Tim, let's move on to another topic here. This is going to be a little bit freelance, and I know you guys are going to struggle to see this board. I'm putting it up just so we can kind of have it in the background. I want to explain what we've added to our draft board now, and there's a purpose here. I want to give everybody an idea of the players the Packers have on their radar already. Again, shout out to Easton Butler. Everybody go give him a follow over on X. He does a phenomenal job tracking these all the way up till after the draft. We'll find out 2-3 days after a Packers drafted a player, he'll be like, yep, just got confirmation. They did have him in for a top 30 visit. Sometimes those go under the radar. So I think Savion Williams might have been one that went under the radar, I believe, just recently. I could be wrong there. You guys double check that. But so what we do on our board here, guys, is you'll notice a cheese emoji. And what I've done up here at the top is I've searched the cheese emoji. So you'll see it pop up over here to the upper right. Met with the Packers. Okay. Now we don't specify where they met with them at. They may have met with them at the Hula Bowl. They may have met with them at the Senior Bowl or what have you. You can find all that information on Easton Butler's spreadsheet. Okay. So go check that out. However, when we go down the list here and we click on it, we have it sorted by overall grade, and we're going to go right down the list and show you guys who's been on the Packers radar. Tim, right off the bat, Brian Parker II, center out of Duke. And you're going, whoa, he's a tackle. It's now being widely reported by Packer sources and, like people who cover the Packers and other people across the draft community that Brian Parker is projecting to be a center or a guard. So he evidently has impressed enough at the East-West Shrine Bowl that he could potentially play center. Now, it doesn't mean he's our top center. We've got a 57.8 grade on Brian Parker II. However, like to compare it to our top center that we got, Jake Slaughter. Jake Slaughter is a 44.4 after the most recent numbers went in. Okay, so Jake Slaughter in the 48 spot, and then you've got our boy with the cheese emoji, Mr. Brian Parker II in the 66 spot. So, Tim, that's the first guy that the Packers have tipped their hand early saying, hey, we're interested in this cat. And there's a little bit of a pipeline. You guys remember we drafted Jacob Monk from Duke. I'm sure they played together at Duke, unless Brian Parker might have been a recent transfer. I don't know. We can dig into that as we get a little closer to the draft time. But does this surprise you, Tim? It looks like they're probably going to have their eyes on some interior offensive line like we talked about. I think we're all over it again this year.
It doesn't. It almost makes me wonder, is this like Zach Tom 2.0? Like, hey, man, this guy can play center. He can play guard. He could probably play tackle anywhere on an O-line. We're going to place a little bit higher value on a player like that. We always talk about versatility on the O-line. So, maybe, just maybe. Jake Slaughter's still my dude, though, if we want a pure-blooded center. But Brian Parker II out of Duke, yeah, definitely cheese emoji, and I love it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, next on the list, number 3 is I got excited about this, and we've talked about him. Darrell Jackson, defensive tackle out of Florida State, big old hog molly. Here's the guy. East-West Shrine Bowl is where he performed at. He really he turned heads down there. We didn't give him the bonus, but I know his name got mentioned several times. Again, Darrell Jackson out of Florida State has met with the Packers. I think that meeting happened at the East-West Shrine Bowl. Again, go check Easton Butler's information to get confirmation. Our grade on him, Tim, 86. However, Walter Football has him at 64. The consensus big board has him at 99, and the PFF big board has him at 88. So 86.
So we're all there. We're all around that area, right?
And the grade that we would put on him with the 86 would suggest that 101 is where he sits on the board here. Where could we potentially take him? Could he be sitting there when we pick in the 80s, right? Well, the grade would suggest that's within range. That's not a huge reach. Although he's sitting in the one-on-one spot, that would tell us there's going to be several prospects who are graded higher than him. Darrell Jackson seems to be on the radar for the Green Bay Packers. So, again, we talk about defensive tackles, whether it's a 3-tech or a nose that can flex out and play 3 when you're in your nickel, however it may fall. this may be a guy that we might hear his name called on draft night.
Yeah, and if he falls to round 4 at 120, then you definitely take him, right? Not saying that he will, hopefully, but I think there's a better chance of us having to go up and get him at 84. I don't know if he's going to be there in the 4th round.
Right. I could see that. Although the information suggests he may be there. These type of guys, when they start skyrocketing up the boards, and again, Walter Football having him at 64, I wouldn't be surprised if he went somewhere between 60 and 70, So
for sure.
We'll keep our eye on him. Now I want to give an honorable mention here. We did not meet with this player, but this is the guy I was telling you about, Emilio's Buffalo linebacker, the Sean Dolak clone here, if you will. With a 97.5 grade, we've got Red Murdoch, linebacker out of Buffalo. Again, the Packers didn't meet with him. I noticed him on the list here. And Emilio has been talking about these Buffalo players, and I always roll my eyes. Sean Dolak looked good last year, limited snaps, but he looks like he belongs, and it looks like they're going to have Red Murdoch out there as well. I tweeted out a scouting report on him, Tim, because he really popped on the board like, hey, you guys might want to check this guy out. Solid-looking prospect, battling an ankle injury. We'll see if it checks out at the Combine and the Pro Day. But when I tweeted that out, the amount of people that retweeted it or mentioned something in the chat about or in the comments about him, you could tell he's beloved up there, not just there, but the high school that he went to. It was a really cool experience to see them come out of the woodwork to support Red Murdoch. But again, Packers haven't met with him, but I just want to give Emilio his shine. We got another.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's just Emilio finding those gems, I mean, absolutely. We all know how he feels about Travis Glover, right? I can't wait for 2026 season, but like you said, it was Dolak last year, and this year we got another gem. Leave it to Excelio for finding them. I love it.
Yeah, definitely. And I see the super chat there, Pack Attack. If you guys got any super chats, I promise I'll hit them at the end. I won't forget them here, okay? All right, moving along here. Number 4, we've got Caleb Proctor, defensive tackle. You ready for this, Tim? When I put him on the board at a 122.5, he's the 143rd best prospect, okay? When I put him on the board, and it said southeastern Louisiana, I literally asked myself, I stepped back, went, what the hell are you doing, Clayton? Should we even put him on the board? Like, that's a small school. What are we doing here? Lo and behold, the Packers met with him. So we're on something here, right? Again, 122.3 or 122.5 would suggest he's worthy of the 122nd pick, although he's sitting at 143 on the big board. This is a guy to maybe look for in the later rounds. Another defensive tackle. No surprise. Packers are really interested in it's early, but they're meeting with several defensive tackles here early.
Yeah, it makes me believe, there's, conflicting, approaches here. Do you go D tackle early right away? I mean, as early as we can go is 2nd round. I wouldn't put it past us to, maybe double dip in those first, handful of picks that we have, whether it's 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round. D tackle is going to be a priority. So, another gem right here. And again, shout out to Easton Butler getting this information out there as quick as possible. That guy's completely plugged in to what's going on. And we're, pretty early in the process, right? We haven't even hit the Combine yet. And, draft is coming up in a couple of months, but these are guys to keep on your radar, especially when you talk about position of need and then where we're drafting and where these guys are falling. So yeah, Caleb Proctor for sure. Southeastern Louisiana. Let's go.
I'm telling you, might as well be Valdosta State, right? Coach Lynn in the chat says defensive tackle on the 3rd would be awesome. Get the DB early if we can. Agreed. It's looking like cornerback or interior or any offensive line. Cornerback, offensive line at pick 52, and then wait on the D tackle a little bit later, 3rd or 4th round, right? And honestly, to me, it feels like, Tim, you could go and for the best value, cornerback in the 2nd, interior offensive line in the 3rd, interior offensive line or offensive tackle in the 4th, and then maybe tap into one of these defensive tackles a little later. I could see that being the case. So completely agree, Coach. All right. Next on the list here, number 5, we got 15, by the way. Number 5 on the list is Demond Claiborne, running back out of Wake Forest. He was at the East-West Shrine Bowl. The Packers met with him. 132.5 grade on him, and he is currently sitting in the 138 spot on the consensus big board, so that's about where he's valued, although we have him in the 156 spot. Okay, so maybe the Packers are looking to late-round pick, try to nab a running back this year to kind of give him a little insurance moving forward. Obviously, we don't know about Marshawn Lloyd's health, and can he finally stay healthy and put it all together? I hope so. I think he's got all the talent in the world, but maybe this is the Packers going maybe a little late round insurance for a running back.
I would agree, as long as he knows, our mantra here in Green Bay, right?
No block, no rock.
Got that right. You got that right. And there was a couple players at the Senior Bowl, man. They were really impressive with their run blocking or their pass blocking, their pass pro at the halfback position. So hopefully it's something that continues to get better, in the college ranks and bringing players.
Definitely
in.
Not the tight ends. Tight ends didn't look so hot.
Right.
But the halfbacks and the backs definitely showed some skill.
So now we're getting to the lower side of the list here, okay? We're getting really deep in the draft board. We've got our first tight end that the Packers met with, Dan Villari, okay, or Valeri, tight end out of Syracuse. He was at the Senior Bowl, 192.8 grade, and they've got him in the 243 spot on the consensus big board. However, we've got him at 235. So we think a little higher of him than the consensus big board does, again, with a 192.8 grade. So probably going to be one of those things you're looking to meet with some of these late round guys, Tim. If they go undrafted, there'd be a priority undrafted free agent signing type thing there.
Yeah, I would agree for sure.
All right, moving along. Number 7, Landon Robinson out of Navy, defensive tackle, another defensive tackle. We've got a 198.0 grade on him. Consensus big board has him at 252, so that would suggest possibly an undrafted free agent in the 243 spot on our board. So again, the reason we do this, guys, the reason we do these exercises and go through the information, what commonalities, what consistencies are we seeing? We're seeing a lot of defensive tackles. So 5th-year option on Devontae Wyatt, right? $12 million fully guaranteed. Do you sign him to another deal? If he's looking to get a big payday, he's 28 years old. Maybe this is them going, hey, let's take a swing or two in the draft for a defensive tackle, sign a high-priority undrafted free agent as well, and see if we can bolster up that room a little bit and be prepared if Devontae Wyatt has a breakout year and you don't want to give him a 4-year deal at 29 years old, right? So that's kind of what I'm piecing together, if that makes sense.
Let's fuel to the theory, too, of maybe you don't go D-tackle right away, right? You can do that third round, 4th round pick.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a question here from Zach Will, and again, I know the super chat's up there, guy. If it's a part of the conversation, we'll include it. So I'm going to hit it at the end, I promise. Zach Will says, "Can someone explain to me the blue and the red columns?" So we have positions of importance, is what we refer to them as. Okay, the green are tier 1 positions of importance, elite positions, essentially, like the most important positions on the team. So those on defense are defensive tackle, specifically 3-tech, but we include the bigger body ones in college as well because they may end up being the next guy that can play the nose and the base and then kick over to the 3 in the 4-2-5. So we just include all defensive tackles. So defensive tackles and edge defenders, top priority on defense. On offense, it's quarterback and offensive tackles. The blue are the tier 2 positions of importance. On defense, stack backers, specifically mock backers is what you're looking for in that position. And then post safety, someone who can play safety. Now, we know all safeties are very interchangeable in the 2026 version of the National Football League. They got to be able to both rotate down and play post in 90% of the schemes across the league. So that's tier 2. On offense, there's only one position on tier 2 on offense, and that's center, in my opinion. Okay, so they're prioritized. So what the board does is it tells you these are players in the green. That's a very, very, very important position. Okay. The blue, that's second important. And then everything else kind of falls into place after that in the white. So hopefully that answers your question. We do that just to kind of make the board come alive a little bit on the vertical board so you can kind of see where these guys are sitting and what position they play in. So appreciate you, Zach. Thank you for the question, buddy. All right. So again, Landon Robinson, defensive tackle out of Navy. I just love any kind of military academy player. If they've got talent, they're disciplined, they're team players, they're everything you're looking for, right? You remember, I think Mike Wall played for Navy, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong there. I think it was Navy he played for. Mike Wall was a dog, just talking about driven offensive line that, wasn't going to take no for an answer, overachiever his entire career. So I don't know. I just like those academy guys. I think it's awesome that the Packers met with him at Navy. So again, he comes in at the 243 spot. Next on the meat list here, Tim, is Alan Heron, offensive tackle out of Maryland. All right. He was at the Senior Bowl, 228.7 grade for us, 229 on the consensus board, 376 on the PFF big board. We've got him in a 288 spot, another undrafted free agent potentially.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's looking like, right? But we need meat on the trenches, right? You never know.
Gotta have the beef. Gotta have the beef.
Where's the beef?
God, I miss those old commercials. That's a Wendy's commercial, right? If I remember right. All right, next on the list, R.J. Maryland, another tight end, another late round tight end, Southern Methodist. All right, his grade, a 264.8. However, the consensus big board has him at 398. Probably going to go undrafted. Packers getting a little look at him, meeting with him, seeing if he's made of the right stuff. Next on the list, we've got our first wide receiver, Emmanuel Henderson, wide receiver out of Kansas. He was at the East-West Shrine Bowl, 277.0. Consensus big board has him at 279. So we have him actually in the 359 spot on our board. So worthy of the 277th spot, but actually falls in the 359 spot for us. Next on the list, we'll go rapid fire. Vinny Anthony, the second wide receiver out of your Wisconsin Badgers. We got a 347.7 grade on him, and it looks like we are higher on him than the PFF big board was that had him at 375. However, he is sitting on in the 401 spot for us. So there's our first Badger that the Packers have met with so far. Next, you've got Tristan Lay, offensive tackle out of Clemson, 399.3. People are going, why would you have 400 prospects on your board? Because we're nerds. That's why. Okay. And you never know when someone who's 500 on the consensus big board, when we walk them through our formula, you never know when they pop and go, damn, they're saying this dude isn't worthy of, there were 400 picks and we got him in the 190 spot. Might want to keep an eye on that guy, especially when it's somebody like Tristan Lay, who the Packers have shown interest in him. So
6'6", 310. He's a big dog too.
You can't coach size, baby.
That's right.
Next on the list, we got another defensive tackle here, and that is Sheffield. Or I'm sorry, not defensive tackle, wide receiver. So you get two back-to-back wide receivers here. DT Sheffield, wide receiver from Rutgers, 417 grade. Consensus big board 411. PFF big board 684 is where he's at. So
5'10", 175. Another compact prototype type of receiver for sure.
Got it. Next, you've got, I hope I'm saying this name right, Ruben Yunje, maybe, or Yanij, offensive tackle out of UCLA, 449. Not a whole lot of information on him, but the Packers did show some interest and meet with him. Next, you've got Malik Silla, linebacker out of Mississippi State, and he is sitting with a 622 grade. It's wild that we've gotten this far down. And then our very last one, we've got our first quarterback, Tim, in the 451 spot. Quarterback, DeQuan Finn from Miami. All right, so he played for the University of Miami, Florida Hurricanes there, right? 855 is his grade, Tim. So for those who are wondering how many players on our board actually have grades, a finalized grade, we have 451 prospects on our board that's got a grade. And we're not done yet because look at this, guys. It's going to blow your mind. You ready for this? Look at all these other prospects that might pop up and have a grade by the time we get to the draft. Pretty wild. So, again,
and like you said, a bunch of people to add to the list for UDFAs, right? Because we see it every year. You know, any of these guys could get picked up.
Yeah. Let's see here. We may actually have more. Let me sort it one more time here just to make sure. No, yeah, we do. Okay. So it just goes back to positionally after that. So, yeah, we got 452. So, going to be awesome, man. I love the draft process. And again, if you want access to that draft board and know what we're talking about there, the way you can get your hands on that is just, it's the best way to support what we do here at PTA is join our Patreon group, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. $3, access to everything there, all the articles, all the extra information, all the chats. The community is what makes it worth it, to be honest with you, everybody that's a part of it over there. And of course, you get access to the draft board. I try to let you guys know first and foremost, hey, planning on going live at this time so you can kind of be ready for us to hit the go live button and all that. But if you guys are watching this video back later, let us know which one of those 16 or 17 prospects the Packers have already met with, according to Easton Butler. Let us know how you feel about those. Do you have a favorite? Are you seeing any kind of commonality there in specific positions? We want to hear from you in the comments. Make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified every time we go live. Tim, you got anything else? I'm going to hit this super chat. You got anything else you want to cover? Any parting thoughts on what we just talked about there with those prospects? Anything stick out to you, man?
Not really, just due diligence, right? That's why it's important that we know who these guys are meeting with. And again, shout out to Easton Butler for, giving us the inside baseball here. And, it's a long journey and you got to know who's on the radar because, depending on where you look, guys are going to rise and fall on boards between now and the draft multiple times, right? And so as long as you're doing your due diligence and maybe they're not top prospects, doesn't matter. We could get a UDFA guy in here. We had Big Nas Stackhouse last year. You never know how guys like that can pan out in their first couple of years in the league. Sometimes you get a stud. So it's important that we do that due diligence for sure.
Absolutely, man. Could not agree more. We got a super chat here from Pack Attack. Thank you so much, buddy. Sorry you had to wait. Help me feel optimistic about all these hires with the brain emoji. So I like the hires. I do. The only thing I don't like about it, Pack Attack, let me tell you the negative, and then I'll give you my positive. Okay. The negative is I think we missed an opportunity to improve our offensive coordinator's position and specifically our offensive line room. I would like to see them go in a different direction with offensive line coaches. Now, that's my personal opinion. Because, you can't just cut all your offensive linemen and just start over, right? However, if I set my little pea brain to the side and listen to Brian Balaga's take is, what do you expect these coaches to do? He said in a very nice way, I don't think you got the dogs to do what you're trying to do. Meaning, Goody has missed on a good chunk of this offensive line in terms of the players. Now, maybe they'll work out better in another system. I don't know. Right? Nobody really knows until they're tested in another system. So Brian Balaga kind of puts me a little bit at ease with us keeping the offensive line coach Butkus in place, at least for the time being, and Adam Stenovich as the OC, who's a former offensive lineman at Michigan, obviously. He was a highly touted offensive line coach in San Francisco, if I remember right, with the 49ers. So people like to look at Steno like he's just this stick in the mud and he don't know what he's doing because he doesn't call plays. I have a hard time believing that he wouldn't get swooped up really, really quick if he was on the open market. He would have a job so fast. I would just like that job to be offensive line coach. Right now, it's obvious nobody was willing to give him an OC job. So manipulate the system a little bit. Manipulate the rules a little bit and have him coach O-line and then bring in someone else to help you as OC. I wanted Mike McDaniel. The problem with that is you got to have Mike McDaniel call the plays. Now, you're probably going, well, he'll be a better play caller than Matt LaFleur. Really? Why is he fired? I'm just asking. Matt LaFleur had a top 5 passing offense this year. Again, well, why did the offense struggle at times? The running game, the run blocking. Again, that's why I look at the offensive line coach like, all right. But I do get to check my ego because Brian Balaga said that. Now, in terms of feeling optimistic with the defensive side of the ball, I love the hires. I do. Now, I wanted Jim Leonard, but probably for the wrong reasons. I wanted Jim Leonard. I think he's going to be a great coach. Don't get me wrong. And I think he's the new defensive coordinator in Buffalo, right? So I wanted Jim Leonard, but a good chunk of that, Tim, is because I know all the Wisconsin fans that watch our show, I know how excited they would be for it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I put Jonathan Gannon way up here and Jim Leonard down here. I'm not saying that. However, it's much closer, in my opinion. But Jonathan Gannon has defensive coordinator experience and play calling experience. That's something that Jim Leonard hasn't had yet, right? Now, what did Jonathan Gannon do as a DC? He was one of the most highly touted defensive coordinators, defensive coaches in the league, so much so that he got one of the few head coaching jobs in Arizona. So I think he's perfectly capable of running our defense. Now, the other hire, Bobby Babich. I think Bobby Babich is a huge improvement over Derek Ansley. And you guys know I like Derek Ansley. But again, Derek Ansley's experience as defensive coordinator was with the Chargers, wasn't so good. Now, it's great he had DC experience. Bobby Babich had one of the best pass defenses in Buffalo. Also, Bobby Babich brings experience coaching linebackers where he coached Matt Milano to a all-pro performance there with Buffalo. Then he switched over to the safeties room where it either one happened before the other. When he was with the safeties room, Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. Jordan Poyer, first-team All-Pro. Micah Hyde, second-team All-Pro. He switched to linebacker. All of a sudden, bang, Matt Milano, first-team All-Pro. Or at least second-team All-Pro. So you got someone who's a lot more, I don't know if fluid's the right word, versatile, right, Tim? So you get a defensive backs coach and passing game coordinator who sees the game kind of through the eyes of a linebacker, while Jonathan Gannon, former DB coach, he's seen it from the back end. So I really like that combination personally. And you get to keep DeMarcus Covington, at least for the time being. I think that's great. What do you think, Tim?
I agree, especially with the D-line group. And then, when you talk about from an offensive, perspective to feel optimistic. I think you alluded to this before that, if we're keeping Coach Buckus and we're keeping Steno, maybe the conversation between Matt and Steno is, yeah, you're the OC, but, lean O-line heavy, man. Focus on this O-line. Let's work with Luke Buckus and get this O-line together. We'll do the best we can to get a crop of talent in here, but when it comes to offensive struggles, it's rooted in that O-line, right? So maybe it's just an adjustment of attitude. And then defensive side of the ball too. Yeah, I mean, anyone who's listened to this show more than once knows that I'm a huge fan of DeMarcus Covington. I think he brings a lot of value as a leader and a teacher with this defensive front, and just something a little different than I've been used to seeing these last couple of years. So hopefully he does stick around long term. And I'm with you, Clay. I'm excited about the Bobby Babich hire. I was a big Derek Ansley fan, but we saw what happened with that secondary last year. So I'm all for a positive change here, and I think Bobby Babich might be the dude that can do that.
Yeah, I think so too. And thank you for the super chat, Pack Attack. Appreciate it. Let's see what the rest of the chat's saying about it. 2-0 for this says, I don't know about this Cephas guy though. I agree. He's one of those that's like, what has he done? Right? He's your new linebacker coach. It's obviously it's I keep wanting to call him Rich Gannon. I'm aging myself here, but
John Gannon.
Yeah, Jonathan Gannon, like it's one of his guys. So, you got to give him some freedom to bring in his guys and try to do what he wants to do there as well. So I'm cautiously optimistic 2-0 for this with Cephas. I honestly am. Now I hope it works out, but I can understand where you're coming from. Like, I don't know about this one. But again, Bobby Babich in-house, maybe he can be able to help a little bit because Jonathan Gannon is going to be working with the DBs as well as defensive coordinator. So maybe you get a little bit of Bobby Babich bleeding over into the linebacker room too. I'm hoping, right? I'm hoping. So
I agree with that. Like 2-0 for this side, like we have to anticipate that, right? It's a new regime. We got a new DC. There's going to be new faces.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Chris the Casual in, well, he's changed his name. It's Chris in ... PFF is biased. All right. So Gannon gonna need a better pass rushing front than what we have as it stands today. And I think I disagree with it, Chris. I disagree with that comment, respectively, of course. I mean, you're talking about a dude in Micah Parsons when he was healthy. People forget how this defense was playing with Micah Parsons. It was off the charts. Off the best guy around. Gary got off to a hot start. Obviously, it tapered off down the end. Will Gary be back? I don't know. Right? We'll see. I think that the pass rushing is not going to be a problem, to be honest with you. We have one of the best pass rushers in the entire National Football League before Michael went down,
We need to get better against the run up front.
Right. Gary was leading the league in sacks for the first 6 or 7 weeks. That's how good they were, right? Coming out of the gate. Now, did we not adjust down the stretch? I don't know. We'd have to dig into the tape a little bit more to come up with a definitive answer, but I understand the concern there. I guess all I'm saying, Chris, I can see where you're coming from. I'm just not worried about it. I think the pass rush is going to be fine. Again, you also got to take into consideration the corners on the backside too, right? Like you got to get better at corner. You got to. It's just something that has to happen. So appreciate the comment there, Bub. Coach Lynn says we don't have guys that run duo and gap scheme runs well. I think we have zone blocking offensive line, in my opinion. That's what we always scouted for, right, Coach? Yeah. And then they go in free agency and said, let's get a big mauler. Let's get a duo guy. Let's go get our boy Aaron Banks. And it just crash and burn, right? So I would like to see him get back to wide zone more. This all started tapering down, started trending down when we signed Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs had a hell of a year his first year, right? But we would all agree it wasn't because the O-line was blocking great. He was making everybody miss, right? So it's not – don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Josh Jacobs is a bad pickup. He's a great pickup. I just wish that we would get on the same page in regards to, okay, let's get the offensive lineman that can block what we want to run. And that's where Goody and LaFleur have to get on the same page. I would not be opposed to going back to more wide zone boost scheme because I think Josh Jacobs can run that. I do. His cutting ability, one cut, go, get downhill, lower the pad level, and boom. I think he would be great at that. So I kind of feel like last year the coaches and Goody, they sat down and said, all right, we're going to really press into duo. We're really going to press into gap scheme, and it just didn't work. So I would like to see him get back to that. Just you ain't got to run it every play, Tim, but just a little change up here or there, right? So to get creative.
Yeah, and then bring the players in for that scheme, for that goal, right? You know, like quit putting square pegs into round holes, right? Let's get our guys here and let's run what we need to run.
Yeah, absolutely. 2-0 for this says, I'm actually really excited about Gannon. Seems to be a case of great defensive coordinator, possibly bad head coach. Arizona is also just a horribly run organization. Yeah. Amen, amen, amen. Everything
and
across
another amen.
Yeah, and that's why we got to be careful, myself included, right? To judge someone as a coordinator based off of how they performed as a head coach. It's a totally different animal. Totally different animal.
And some guys are better coordinators than head coaches. It is what it is. We've seen that time and time again. And then, you know, to 2-0 for this point there, I mean, look at the talent and look at the, you know, the crop of players that he had to work with in Arizona. And like you said, bad management. I mean, it's a recipe for disaster. So I'm willing to not judge him on the previous head coaching experience and just look at it as, hey, he's got head coaching experience, you know?
Yeah, definitely. All right, Tim, this is a fun show, man. If you guys are watching this back later, let us know in the comments, how do you feel about the coaching hires? We didn't have that segment earmarked down, but it worked out great. So I appreciate the super chat by Pack Attack getting that kicked off. Fascinating conversation. Let us know in the comments. You've had about a week to kind of settle in here with the coaching hires, right? How do you feel about what the Packers did in terms of their coaches? Let us know. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you don't miss out on future content. Tim, you got anything else you want to hit before we wrap up, bub?
Not at all. Just thanks for having me again, and looking forward to breaking down more of these draft prospects as we go forward, man. It's going to be an awesome journey here towards the draft.
Every day I wake up thinking we might skip a show today because, you know, we've covered everything. And by the time I get my cup of coffee and get settled in, I'm like, we could hit this. We could talk about that. There's plenty to talk about. So we'll be here.
Plenty more mock drafts to do too, right?
Definitely. Plenty more. So you guys and gals, do me a big favor. Make sure you spin those laces. 2-0 for this confirmed. It is a football tonight, so hit that like button and enjoy that spinning pigskin. Also, the best way to support what we do here at Packers Total Access is to join our Patreon group, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. And again, I say this all the time. If you don't have the funds, you don't have $3 a month to join our Patreon group, you being in here, watching the stream, commenting, taking a second to hit like, hitting us with a Go Pack Go in the comments, it's more than enough. We created the Patreon group as a way that people can support us on the side if they want to, because people were asking for it. And now we've tried to give you guys all kinds of extra value with extra content over there. That's all that is. So please don't feel obligated to do that. Just know it's there if you do want to support. So, Tim, appreciate your time, man.
Thanks for having me, Clay.
All right. Everybody have a great night. We will see y'all tomorrow, and we'll have plenty of time. We'll definitely do a mock draft tomorrow. We'll have time to do that. So make sure you guys keep an eye out for that. If you're in the Patreon group, I'll let you know over there, and let's all hop in there and have a conversation. Appreciate everybody in the Patreon group. That's Tim. My name's Clayton. This is PTA. Go Pack Go.
Here we go.
Bye, guys.